You really thought nobody would believe a black woman over a badge? The words hadn't even finished leaving her mouth when the entire plaza fell silent. Just seconds earlier, downtown Baltimore had been loud with traffic, footsteps, and the low hum of people rushing through their Friday evening routines beneath the fading orange light of sunset. Food carts lined the sidewalk outside Lexington Market, steam curling into the cold November air, while commuters hurried toward the subway entrance with coffee cups tucked between stiff fingers. Then Officer Ryan Keller stepped directly into Alana Hayes' path. "Ma'am, stop right there." His voice carried the kind of sharp authority that made nearby conversations instantly fade. Alana slowed but didn't look nervous. She wore a charcoal gray coat damp from light rain, low heels clicking softly against the concrete, and a leather pharmacy bag hanging from one shoulder. A prescription bottle peeked from the top beside folded hospital paperwork. She looked tired more than anything else. The kind of tired that lived behind the eyes. Ryan glanced at her for barely 2 seconds before his posture changed. His jaw tightened. His hand rested near his utility belt. "Need to see some ID." Alana blinked once. Calm. Controlled. "For what reason, officer?" Ryan smirked slightly, looking her up and down as a second patrol officer lingered several feet behind him near the squad car. "You match a suspect description." Around them, people began slowing down. Not stopping completely. Just enough to feel the tension gathering in the cold evening air. Alana adjusted the strap on her shoulder carefully. "And what exactly does the suspect look like?" Ryan's eyes narrowed. "Don't start making this difficult." A teenager standing near the bus stop quietly lifted his phone and pressed record. Alana noticed, but said nothing. Her breathing stayed steady. Ryan stepped closer now, close enough for the blue and red reflections from the patrol lights to ripple across her face. "Hands where I can see them." "Officer," she replied softly. "I'm carrying medication for my mother. I'm not a threat to you." Something about the way she said it irritated him even more. Maybe it was her composure. Maybe it was the fact that she didn't lower her eyes. "Yeah," Ryan muttered loudly enough for everyone nearby to hear. "They always say that." Then it happened. Quick. Ugly. A sharp spit landed against the front of Alana's coat near the collarbone. Gasps cut through the plaza immediately. The teenager's phone jerked upward, trying to keep focus. A woman near the crosswalk covered her mouth. Even the second officer looked stunned for half a second before quickly staring away. Ryan exhaled through his nose like nothing unusual had happened. "Now show me your ID." Alana didn't react right away. She looked down slowly at the stain on her coat, while rainwater slid across the fabric beneath the flashing lights. Her fingers tightened around the pharmacy bag. Not angry, not shaking, just still. That stillness unsettled everyone watching more than shouting ever could have. The city noise seemed farther away now. Buses, the horns, the sirens in the distance. Everything blurred behind the sound of rain tapping softly against concrete. Alana reached into her pocket and removed a folded white tissue. She wiped her coat carefully, once, then looked directly at Ryan Keller for the first time. Her eyes were calm enough to make his confidence flicker. "Officer," she said quietly, "are you absolutely sure you want to continue this?" Officer Ryan Keller gave a short laugh, but it sounded thinner now, less certain than before. Rainwater dripped from the edge of his patrol cap, while the flashing lights painted red streaks across the wet sidewalk beneath their feet. "You threatening me now?" he asked. Alana Hayes folded the damp tissue in her hand with precise movements and slipped it calmly into her coat pocket. "No," she answered softly. "I am giving you a chance to think carefully." The teenage boy near the bus stop kept filming, his phone shaking slightly from nerves and cold. More people had stopped walking now. A delivery driver stood beside his bicycle watching silently. Two women outside the pharmacy whispered to each other while pretending not to stare. The entire block felt suspended, balanced on something invisible that nobody fully understood yet. Ryan looked around at the growing crowd and straightened his shoulders. The attention energized him. Some officers shrank when cameras appeared. Ryan Keller became louder. "Turn around," he ordered sharply. "I said show me identification." Alana did not move. Her pharmacy bag hung quietly from her shoulder, rain tapping against the leather in soft, uneven rhythms. "You have not explained what law I broke," she replied. "And you have no right to detain me without cause." Ryan took another step closer until they were barely 3 feet apart. The scent of rain and engine smoke drifted between them. You people always think you know the law because you watch videos online. The words landed hard enough that several people in the crowd exchanged uncomfortable looks. The second patrol officer shifted uneasily near the squad car, but stayed silent. Alana's expression did not change. If anything, she looked sadder now than angry. Her eyes moved briefly toward the small body camera clipped to Ryan's chest. A tiny green light blinked steadily against the dark fabric of his uniform, recording everything. Good, she murmured quietly. Ryan frowned. What was that? Nothing, Alana answered. Just noticing your camera is active. Something about the sentence made Ryan's jaw tighten again. He reached toward her arm suddenly, not aggressively, but firmly enough to establish control in front of the crowd. Last warning. The teenager filming swallowed hard. Yo, man, she is literally just standing there, he muttered under his breath. Ryan snapped toward him immediately. You filming police operations now? The boy froze. He could not have been older than 16, skinny beneath an oversized Ravens hoodie, his backpack straps hanging loose against his shoulders. I got rights, he said carefully, though his voice cracked slightly. Ryan stepped toward him. Hand me the phone. Alana moved instantly then, placing herself between the officer and the teenager with surprising calm. Not dramatic. Not loud. Just deliberate. Do not involve him, she said. Rain slid down the side of her face, catching the red patrol lights like liquid glass. Ryan stared at her in disbelief for a moment. Excuse me. He is recording in public. Legally. Her voice remained level. You know that. The crowd had gone completely quiet now. Somewhere farther down the street, a siren echoed through downtown Baltimore, low and distant beneath the steady hiss of rain. Ryan looked at the phones pointed toward him from every angle, then at Alana standing directly in front of him without fear. Something inside him seemed to harden. You think this is a game? He asked coldly. Alana shook her head once. No, Officer Keller, she replied. I think this is a moment you are going to remember for the rest of your life. For the first time since stopping her, Ryan's confidence flickered completely. Just for a second. But Alana saw it. Rain rolled steadily down the windshield of the parked squad car, turning the flashing blue lights into long, distorted streaks across the soaked pavement. Officer Ryan Keller stood rigid beneath the cold evening drizzle, his breathing heavier now, though he tried not to show it. Around him, more phones had appeared. A man in a construction jacket quietly stepped closer to record. Someone across the street lowered the volume of a portable speaker. Even traffic seemed slower as drivers passing through the intersection glanced toward the growing crowd outside Lexington Market. Alana Hayes remained perfectly still between Ryan and the teenage boy. Her charcoal coat was wet along the shoulders now, darkened by rain and the stain she had quietly wiped away minutes earlier. She did not look frightened. That was the part Ryan could not understand. Most people became nervous around authority. Most people talked too fast, apologized too quickly, or avoided eye contact entirely. Alana did none of those things. She stood there with the calm patience of someone waiting for a clock to finish counting down. Move aside, Ryan ordered. His voice came out sharper than he intended. The kid interfered with an active investigation. The teenager stared in disbelief. Investigation into what? He asked quietly. Ryan ignored him completely. His eyes stayed locked on Alana. You think because there are cameras around, I cannot do my job? Ryan, he muttered under his breath. Maybe just let her go. Ryan turned sharply toward him. You want to tell me how to handle my stop now? The other officer immediately fell silent. That silence changed the atmosphere even more. People watching could sense it now. This was no longer routine. Something had slipped out of control. Alana looked briefly toward the blinking body camera attached to Ryan's chest again. Tiny droplets of water clung to the lens, recording every second, every word. Officer Keller, she said carefully, you still have time to walk away from this professionally. Ryan gave a cold laugh, but there was tension beneath it now. Professionally, he repeated. Lady, you are standing in the middle of my scene acting like you run things. No, Alana answered softly. I am standing here hoping you remember what your badge is supposed to mean. Those words hit harder than shouting would have. The construction worker lowered his phone for a second, eyes narrowing thoughtfully. The teenager filming swallowed nervously but kept recording. Somewhere above them, thunder rolled faintly across the dark Baltimore skyline. Ryan stepped closer again until only inches separated him from Alana. You know what your problem is? He asked. You walk around acting like rules do not apply to you. Alana met his eyes without blinking. And your problem, she replied quietly, is that you decided who I was before you even spoke to me. The rain seemed louder suddenly. Heavy drops tapped against squad car roofs and steamed food carts nearby. Nobody moved. Nobody interrupted. Then a sharp burst of static cracked through Ryan's shoulder radio. Unit 12, status check. Ryan grabbed the radio immediately, grateful for the interruption. Situation under control, he answered quickly. But before he could lower it, another voice came through clearer this time. Older. Commanding. Be advised, Internal Affairs has arrived downtown ahead of schedule tonight. Ryan froze for half a second, just enough for Alana to notice. And for the first time since this encounter began, she almost looked disappointed. The static from the shoulder radio faded into the rain-soaked air, but the words lingered heavily between everyone standing on that crowded Baltimore sidewalk. Internal Affairs. Even the people filming seemed to recognize the shift in Ryan Keller's expression. It happened fast, and almost invisibly, like a crack spreading beneath glass. His confidence did not disappear completely, but something underneath it stumbled. Alana Hayes saw it immediately. So did the second patrol officer standing beside the cruiser. He lowered his eyes for a moment, suddenly far more interested in the puddles forming near the curb than the confrontation unfolding in front of him. Ryan tightened his grip on the radio clipped to his shoulder. Copy that, he answered stiffly. We are handling a disturbance near Lexington. His voice sounded forced now, overly controlled. Alana watched him quietly beneath the falling rain. A city bus rolled past the intersection, tires hissing through water, headlights washing pale gold across the crowd gathered outside the subway entrance. Nobody was leaving anymore. The teenager recording everything adjusted his phone carefully, making sure both Alana and Ryan stayed in frame. Comments were already flooding his live stream faster than he could read them. People online wanted to know why an officer was stopping a woman carrying hospital paperwork in the middle of the street. They wanted to know why she looked calmer than the police surrounding her. Ryan turned back toward Alana with a sharp breath. You think this changes something? He asked quietly. Internal Affairs showing up downtown does not concern me. Alana tilted her head slightly. Rain slid from her dark curls onto the collar of her coat. Pens, she answered softly. On what exactly they came downtown to investigate tonight? Ryan's jaw tightened again. The construction worker filming nearby exchanged a glance with another bystander. People could feel it now. The balance of power was shifting, though nobody fully understood how yet. Ryan suddenly stepped closer and motioned toward the squad car. You are coming with us until we sort this out. But Ryan ignored him completely. Alana remained where she was, one hand still resting lightly on the strap of her pharmacy bag. On what charge? She asked. For one brief moment, frustration flashed openly across Ryan's face. The crowd saw it. The cameras saw it. The blinking green light on his body cam saw it too. Then thunder rolled overhead again, low and heavy above the downtown skyline. The rain became steadier, drumming against umbrellas, squad car roofs, and concrete sidewalks glowing beneath neon storefront lights. Alana slowly looked toward Ryan's chest again, toward the body camera recording every second, every choice, every word. Officer Keller, she said quietly, you should listen to your partner. Ryan laughed bitterly. And why exactly would I take advice from you? Alana's expression softened then, almost sadly. Because 5 minutes from now, she replied, you are going to wish this encounter ended differently. The words landed harder than the cold rain around them. Ryan opened his mouth to answer, but another voice suddenly echoed from farther down the street. Move aside. Now. Heads turned instantly. Two black SUVs rolled slowly toward the curb through the rain, headlights cutting white through the misty evening air. Crowd parted almost automatically. The second patrol officer's posture straightened immediately. Ryan looked toward the vehicles, confusion flickering across his face for the first time all night. And standing silently in the middle of the sidewalk beneath the flashing patrol lights, Alana Hayes finally let her hand slip quietly inside her coat. The two black SUVs stopped along the curb with slow, deliberate precision, their headlights glowing through the curtain of rain like pale searchlights cutting across the crowded sidewalk. Nobody spoke for a moment. The only sound was water tapping against concrete and the distant rumble of traffic somewhere deeper in downtown Baltimore. Officer Ryan Keller stared toward the vehicles, confusion slowly replacing the certainty he had carried all evening. The second patrol officer immediately straightened his posture beside the squad car, instinctively adjusting the front of his uniform. He recognized government vehicles when he saw them. So did several people in the crowd. The teenager live streaming lowered his phone slightly, then quickly raised it again when the rear door of the first SUV opened. A tall older man stepped out holding an umbrella against the rain. Gray hair, dark overcoat, sharp eyes that moved across the entire scene in seconds. Chief Warren Cole. The reaction was immediate. The second officer stood nearly at attention. Even Ryan's expression shifted as he realized someone far above his chain of command had arrived in person. Chief Cole looked first at the crowd, then at the flashing patrol lights, then finally at the woman standing calmly in the center of it all with rain dripping from the edge of her charcoal coat. Face hardened instantly. "Officer Keller," he said evenly. "Step away from her." Ryan blinked. "Sir, this woman has been obstructing," I said. "Step away." The authority in the chief's voice cut through the rain sharper than any siren. Ryan slowly obeyed, though tension still showed in the stiffness of his shoulders. People around them exchanged stunned looks. The teenager filming whispered under his breath, "Oh my God." Alana Hayes remained completely still, calm, silent. Her hand stayed inside her coat pocket as Chief Cole walked directly toward her. Closer he got, the quieter the entire block became. Even passing pedestrians slowed when they sensed something important unfolding beneath the flashing red and blue lights. Chief Cole stopped directly in front of Alana and lowered his umbrella slightly. Rain tapped softly against the fabric overhead. "Captain Hayes," he said quietly, "are you all right?" The words hit Ryan Keller like ice water. His face drained almost immediately. The second patrol officer closed his eyes briefly, realizing exactly what had happened. Around them, phones lifted higher into the air. The livestream comments exploded faster than the teenager could read them. "Captain? Internal Affairs? No way." Alana finally removed her hand from inside her coat. Slowly, deliberately. In her palm rested a silver badge glistening beneath the rain and patrol lights. Internal Affairs Division was engraved clearly across the center beneath the city seal. Ryan stared at it without breathing. The world around him seemed to shrink into silence. Every decision he had made over the last 10 minutes replayed behind his eyes all at once. The accusations, the crowd, the cameras, the spit landing against her coat, the blinking body camera attached to his own chest still recording every second. Alana looked at him quietly, not with anger, not even satisfaction, just disappointment. Chief Cole turned toward Ryan slowly. "Do you understand who you have been speaking to tonight?" Ryan opened his mouth, but no words came out. Rainwater rolled down the side of his face while the red and blue lights reflected across the soaked pavement around his boots. Teenager live streaming whispered again, barely audible this time. "He is finished." Chief Cole's expression darkened further as he looked from Ryan to the crowd filming everything. Captain Hayes arrived downtown this evening to oversee an active investigation into racial misconduct complaints inside this precinct. For several long seconds, nobody on the sidewalk moved. Rain continued falling steadily across downtown Baltimore, washing over flashing patrol lights, dark umbrellas, and the stunned faces gathered outside Lexington Market. The entire block felt frozen in place beneath the cold November sky. Officer Ryan Keller stood motionless beside the squad car, staring at the silver badge in Captain Alana Hayes' hand, as if his mind could not fully process what his eyes were seeing. The livestream phone held by the teenage boy trembled slightly from excitement. Comments poured across the screen so fast they blurred together. Some people watching online demanded answers. Others simply repeated the same sentence again and again. She warned him. Alana slowly lowered the badge back toward her coat, but she did not put it away yet. Rainwater rolled across the engraved surface before dripping quietly onto the pavement below. Her face remained calm, though exhaustion showed more clearly now beneath the flashing lights. Chief Warren Cole studied Ryan carefully, disappointment etched deeply across his expression. "Deactivate your body camera and surrender it to Internal Affairs," he said firmly. Ryan blinked hard. "Sir, I did not know who she was." The excuse sounded weak even before the words fully left his mouth. Chief Cole's eyes narrowed slightly. "That is exactly the problem." The second patrol officer lowered his head. He looked embarrassed, simply standing nearby. Alana glanced briefly toward him before returning her attention to Ryan. You should never need to know someone's title before treating them with dignity, she said quietly. Her voice was soft enough that people leaned closer to hear it over the rain. No anger. No shouting. Somehow that made the words hit even harder. Ryan swallowed visibly. Water dripped from the edge of his uniform sleeves, while the flashing patrol lights painted restless colors across his face. For the first time all night, he looked less like an officer controlling a scene and more like a man realizing he had lost control of himself. The teenager filming slowly stepped closer. Captain, he asked carefully, were you really investigating this precinct already? Alana looked toward him for a moment. The young boy could not have been older than 16, but his expression carried the seriousness of someone seeing the world differently than he had an hour earlier. Yes, she answered softly. For months. A murmur spread through the crowd immediately. Chief Cole folded his arms beneath the umbrella and looked toward the gathered bystanders. There have been repeated complaints involving unlawful stops and discriminatory conduct in this district, he said evenly. Tonight was not supposed to happen this way. Alana's eyes lowered briefly toward the pharmacy bag still hanging from her shoulder. The hospital paperwork inside had become slightly damp from the rain. I was actually on my way to Mercy Hospital, she admitted quietly. My mother starts dialysis at 6 every Friday. The construction worker filming lowered his phone slightly at that. Suddenly, she looked less like an authority figure and more like an exhausted daughter trying to make it through a difficult evening before being stopped in public for no reason at all. Ryan noticed the pharmacy bag too. Shame flickered visibly across his face. Real shame this time. Not fear of punishment. Something deeper. He looked down at the wet pavement for several seconds before finally speaking again. Captain Hayes, he said carefully, I crossed a line tonight. The rain softened slightly around them, turning from heavy drops into a fine mist beneath the city lights. Alana studied him quietly. You crossed that line long before tonight, she replied. The words settled heavily into the cold evening air. Ryan closed his eyes briefly. Somewhere nearby, a train rattled beneath the streets, its distant vibration humming through the soaked concrete under everyone's feet. The city kept moving around them, but on that sidewalk time still felt suspended. Then Chief Cole extended one hand toward Ryan. Your badge, he said calmly. Ryan stared at him in silence for a moment, and slowly, with cameras recording from every angle, he reached toward his chest. Officer Ryan Keller's hand trembled slightly as his fingers reached toward the badge pinned to the center of his rain-soaked uniform. The crowd watched in complete silence. Nobody lifted a voice. Nobody moved closer. The only sounds came from the soft hiss of tires on wet pavement and the distant rumble of thunder rolling somewhere above the Baltimore harbor. Ryan stared downward as though removing the badge physically hurt more than any punishment waiting for him afterward. Chief Warren Cole stood motionless beneath the umbrella, one hand extended patiently into the cold evening air. Around them, cameras continued recording from every angle. Teenager live streaming could barely steady his breathing anymore. Thousands of people were watching online now. The comment counter climbed faster every second. Some viewers demanded Ryan be fired immediately. Others focused only on Captain Alana Hayes, asking how she had remained so calm through the entire encounter. Alana herself never looked at the cameras. Her attention stayed on Ryan quietly, almost thoughtfully. Rain mist drifted through the flashing red and blue patrol lights behind her, softening the edges of the crowded sidewalk into blurred reflections and shadow. Finally, Ryan unclipped the badge from his chest. The metallic snap echoed strangely loud beneath the silence surrounding them. He placed it carefully into Chief Cole's waiting hand without speaking. The second patrol officer looked away completely now, unable to watch any longer. Chief Cole lowered the badge slowly into his coat pocket. Your firearm and patrol access will be suspended pending immediate review, he said firmly. Ryan nodded once without lifting his eyes. The words seemed distant to him now, like he was hearing them through water. Alana shifted the pharmacy bag gently higher on her shoulder. Her fingers lingered briefly against the damp hospital paperwork inside before she looked toward Ryan again. Do you know what the hardest part of this job is? She asked quietly. Ryan looked confused by the question. His face carried none of the arrogance it had earlier. Only exhaustion and disbelief remained now. Alana continued before he could answer. It is not investigating misconduct, she said softly. It is realizing how often people reveal themselves the moment they think nobody important is watching. The crowd remained completely still. Even the teenager filming lowered his phone slightly, as if the moment deserved something quieter than internet reactions and livestream comments. Rainwater slid slowly down the side of Ryan's face. "Captain Hayes," he said carefully, "I made assumptions." Alana nodded faintly. "You made a decision before you saw me as human." The sentence landed heavier than anything else spoken that night. Chief Cole glanced briefly toward the surrounding bystanders. Several people standing near the crosswalk looked emotional now. One older woman quietly wiped rainwater from her cheeks, though it was difficult to tell whether it was truly rain anymore. The construction worker who had been filming since the beginning lowered his phone completely. "My daughter is black," he muttered softly to nobody in particular. This could have been her. Alana heard him. Her expression softened for the first time all evening. Not victorious, just tired. Deeply tired. "That is exactly why this matters," she replied. A long silence followed. Downtown traffic continued flowing through the intersection while steam rose from nearby food carts into the cold air. The city moved around them normally again, but something inside the atmosphere had changed permanently. Ryan finally lifted his eyes toward Alana. "Why did you not tell me who you were immediately?" he asked. Chief Cole looked toward her curiously as well. It was the first honest question Ryan had asked all night. Alana studied him quietly for several seconds before answering. "Because respect that depends on a title is not respect at all." Ryan looked away again almost immediately. The truth in her words stripped away whatever remained of his defense. Then Alana slowly stepped aside, clearing the path between Ryan and the crowd filming him from every direction. "Tonight was never about embarrassing you," she said softly. "It was about showing everyone exactly what happens when prejudice feels protected." And standing there beneath the fading rain and flashing patrol lights, Ryan Keller finally understood that the cameras had never been the thing exposing him. The rain had almost stopped by the time Chief Warren Cole stepped away toward the waiting SUVs, speaking quietly into his phone while officers along the street avoided looking directly at Ryan Keller. The flashing patrol lights still painted red and blue reflections across the soaked pavement, but the tension that had filled the block earlier had changed into something heavier now. Not fear. Reflection. The crowd remained gathered beneath awnings and umbrellas, though nobody was shouting anymore. The teenager live streaming finally lowered his phone enough to rest his tired arm, but he never stopped recording. People online were still flooding the stream with messages faster than he could process them. Some demanded punishment. Others simply kept repeating Captain Alana Hayes' words about dignity and respect. Ryan stood near the curb without his badge, looking strangely smaller than before. Confidence that had once filled his posture was gone completely now, washed away beneath the cold Baltimore rain. His uniform looked heavier somehow, without the metal shield attached to his chest. Alana adjusted the strap of her pharmacy bag again and glanced briefly toward the hospital paperwork peeking from the top. Time was slipping away. Her mother would already be waiting. Still, she remained there a moment longer, studying Ryan quietly while the city lights reflected across the wet sidewalks around them. "Captain Hayes," Ryan said carefully, his voice rougher than before, "I owe you an apology." The sentence came slowly, like something difficult to lift. The crowd fell silent again immediately. Alana looked at him without expression. Ryan swallowed hard before continuing. "Not because of your position," he admitted quietly. "Because I treated you like you mattered less before I knew who you were." The honesty in his voice surprised even Chief Cole, who paused near the SUV and looked back toward them. Alana remained silent for several seconds. A bus rolled past nearby, headlights stretching across the rain-soaked street like pale ribbons of light. Steam drifted upward from a food cart at the corner, while downtown traffic hummed softly in the distance. Finally, Alana spoke. "Do you know why people stopped to record tonight?" she asked. Ryan frowned slightly, confused by the question. "Because they saw a confrontation," he answered uncertainly. Alana shook her head once. "No, they recorded because deep down, too many people have seen moments like this before." Teenager holding the livestream phone lowered his eyes at that. An older man standing beneath a nearby awning nodded slowly without speaking. Alana continued softly, her voice steady against the fading rain. "Somebody always gets followed. Somebody always gets doubted. Somebody always gets treated like they have to prove they belong in their own city. Ryan stared at the pavement in silence. "And tonight," she said quietly, "you became an example of what happens when authority forgets compassion." The words were not cruel. That was what made them difficult to hear. Ryan finally looked back up at her. "Can people like me change?" he asked after a long pause. The question sounded painfully genuine now. Alana studied him carefully beneath the flashing lights reflecting across the wet street between them. "Only if you stop thinking this was one bad night," she answered. "Moments like this begin long before the cameras start recording." Ryan nodded slowly, absorbing every word. Chief Cole approached again, holding the recovered body camera carefully in one hand. "Internal Affairs will handle the investigation from here," he said firmly. Then his expression softened slightly as he looked toward Alana. "You should get to the hospital." For the first time all evening, real emotion flickered across her face. Exhaustion, worry, love. She nodded quietly. "My mother hates when I am late on Fridays," she admitted softly. A few people in the crowd smiled faintly at that. Human again. Not just a captain. Not just an investigator. A daughter trying to reach her mother after a long night. Alana turned toward the black SUV waiting beside the curb, then paused one final time before stepping away. She looked back toward Ryan Keller standing silently beneath the flashing lights and said, "The badge never made me worthy of respect, Officer Keller. It only revealed whether you were willing to give it before you saw it." And with that, she walked slowly through the fading rain while the entire street watched her go in complete silence. The black SUV disappeared slowly into the wet Baltimore traffic, its taillights glowing red against the rain-darkened streets, before finally fading beyond the intersection. For several seconds after it left, nobody on the sidewalk moved. The city noise gradually returned around them in fragments. A distant siren. Tires passing through shallow puddles. The low metallic groan of the subway beneath the street. But the atmosphere outside Lexington Market had changed permanently. Officer Ryan Keller remained standing near the curb beneath the flashing patrol lights, shoulders heavy, uniform soaked, staring silently at the empty space where Captain Alana Hayes had been moments earlier. Without the badge on his chest, he looked strangely ordinary now. Just another man standing in the rain confronting the weight of his own choices. The teenager live streaming finally lowered his phone completely. His arm had gone numb from holding it up for so long. "That was crazy," he whispered quietly, though his voice carried no excitement anymore. Only disbelief. Around him, several people slowly began walking away, but nobody left casually. Conversation stayed low and thoughtful. An older woman paused beside the bus stop and looked back one final time toward Ryan before shaking her head softly and disappearing into the crowd. The construction worker who had filmed nearly the entire encounter zipped his jacket against the cold air and muttered under his breath. The flashing lights reflected across both men as steam rose from a nearby street vent into the cold night air. "Internal Affairs will contact you by morning," Chief Cole said calmly. Ryan nodded once. "Yes, sir." His voice barely sounded like the same officer from earlier that evening. Chief Cole studied him carefully for several seconds. "Do not waste tonight defending yourself in your own mind," he said quietly. "Use it to understand what she was trying to teach you before this ever became an investigation." Ryan swallowed hard but did not answer. There was nothing left to argue. Chief Cole gave a final nod and walked toward the waiting vehicles. Within moments, the SUVs pulled away from the curb, leaving only the patrol car lights flickering silently against the wet sidewalks and storefront windows. Ryan remained alone near the edge of the street. The second patrol officer hesitated beside the cruiser before finally speaking. "I should have stepped in earlier," he admitted quietly. Ryan stared down at the soaked pavement. "Yeah," he answered after a long silence. "You should have." The younger officer nodded slowly, accepting the truth of it, then climbed into the squad car without another word. A moment later the vehicle rolled away, leaving Ryan standing completely alone beneath the fading rain. Across the street, the teenager who had live-streamed everything checked his phone one last time before ending the broadcast. More than 2 million people had watched before it finally disconnected. He looked toward the empty intersection where Alana had disappeared and quietly slipped his phone into his pocket. Somewhere high above the city, the clouds finally began to break apart. Thin moonlight reflected softly across the wet pavement where hours earlier a crowd had gathered around humiliation, anger, and power. Now the street was nearly empty again. Only the rain remained, washing slowly across the concrete, carrying away footprints, reflections, and the last traces of a night that would follow everyone who witnessed it for a very long time. Ryan Keller stood there in silence as cold wind drifted through the sleeping city around him. And for the first time in years, the sound he heard most clearly was not the sirens, the traffic, or even the rain. It was the quiet weight of finally seeing himself without the protection of the badge.